The Gulf of America controversy, analyzing Trump's bold decree. In a move that has garnered significant national and international attention, President Donald Trump recently signed a decree officially renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. This bold and, for many, startling declaration has sparked widespread debate about its motivations, implications, and consequences. While supporters hail it as a patriotic gesture reinforcing American dominance, critics warn that this decision could provoke unnecessary tensions both locally and abroad. The Gulf of Mexico, or now the Gulf of America, is far more than a body of water. It is a region of immense geopolitical, economic, and environmental significance. In this video, we'll explore why this renaming matters, break down its potential motivations, and assess its far-reaching impacts. Is this a calculated exercise in nationalism, or could it destabilize critical regional partnerships? Let's dive in. To understand the weight of this decision, it's important to first appreciate the significance of the Gulf of Mexico. This region lies at the intersection of three nations, Mexico, Cuba, and the United States, and plays a vital role in connecting them economically and geographically. The Gulf is rich in natural resources, with vast reserves of oil and natural gas being extracted from its depths. It also serves as a vital hub for lucrative fisheries that feed millions and provide substantial economic benefit to surrounding nations. Additionally, maritime trade routes cutting through its waters link key global markets, making it a strategic asset not just for bordering countries, but for international commerce as a whole. Beyond its economic value, the Gulf of Mexico holds critical environmental importance. It houses diverse marine ecosystems and supports thriving fisheries, which are carefully managed through cooperative agreements between the U.S., Mexico, and Cuba. Considering its shared resources and interdependence, any shift, political or otherwise, has the potential to impact all stakeholders. President Trump's decree officially changes the Gulf of Mexico's name to the Gulf of America. This move is likely to become one of the most controversial gestures of his presidency. During the announcement, Trump framed the renaming as a reaffirmation of U.S. influence and a part of his broader America First agenda. According to his administration, this gesture not only emphasizes America's territorial legacy, but also positions the nation as the dominant stakeholder in the region. While the decree changes the name in official U.S. documents, it's important to note that the Gulf of Mexico's identity remains unchanged internationally. The region's name has been globally recognized for centuries, and treaties between the bordering nations have long adhered to this terminology. For many, the renaming is more than a branding effort. It challenges established norms and raises questions about sovereignty, diplomacy, and territorial claims. To dissect this bold decision, we must explore its possible motivations. Supporters of the move view it as a symbolic gesture to promote nationalism and strengthen America's sense of identity. The Gulf's renaming can be seen as an assertion of U.S. power, rallying patriotic sentiment while sending a strong message to competitors, particularly Mexico and Cuba. From a political perspective, this decree aligns with Trump's America First rhetoric. During his presidency, Trump repeatedly pursued policies designed to amplify U.S. dominance, even at the expense of traditional alliances. Domestically, this renaming may also cater to Trump's political base, bolstering his legacy as a leader unafraid of making bold and unconventional moves. On the other hand, critics argue that the decision lacks necessity and appears provocative. Many see this as a symbolic yet empty gesture, crafted to distract from more pressing issues or to raise tensions with foreign neighbors unnecessarily. Historically, actions that spark territorial disputes, even in name, have seldom yielded positive results, but they have often led to ideological divides or political isolation. As expected, the renaming has triggered polarized responses within the United States. Trump supporters have lauded the decree, framing it as a restoration of American influence and pride. They believe it serves as a timely reminder of the nation's strength and leadership, particularly in a contested geopolitical environment. However, detractors have criticized the move as an unproductive and symbolic stunt. Political leaders and citizens alike have expressed skepticism over its necessity. Many argue that such decisions divert attention from more critical issues like environmental concerns in the Gulf, climate change, or trade disputes. Even environmentalists have raised red flags, fearing that the name change could trivialize the shared stewardship of the Gulf's fragile resources. In sum, the renaming has added yet another chapter to the growing polarization of U.S. politics. Beyond the United States, reactions to the renaming have been more than just verbal criticisms. They reflect deeper concerns about territorial sovereignty and regional diplomacy. Both Mexico and Cuba have publicly opposed the decree, viewing it as an affront to their shared identity and history with the Gulf. Mexican officials in particular have expressed dissatisfaction, interpreting the name change as a symbolic attempt to assert dominance over a mutually owned natural corridor. Cuba, while less directly affected economically, has also echoed disapproval, framing the renaming as yet another illustration of U.S. hegemony in the region. The controversy risks straining already fragile relationships between these nations and the United States. Mexico and Cuba may escalate their countermeasures in political or trade negotiations, impacting future cooperation in managing the Gulf's shared resources. One of the biggest concerns surrounding the renaming lies in its potential to disrupt economic dependencies and agreements. The Gulf of Mexico supports billions of dollars in industries including oil, gas, fishing, and maritime shipping. Given its shared borders, there are pre-existing treaties dictating rights over Gulf resources, many of which rely on cooperative naming conventions. Renaming the Gulf could reignite debates over resource ownership, particularly with Mexico, which is heavily invested in the region's oil and fisheries. An economic dispute in the wake of this decree might lead to competitive policies rather than cooperative management, ultimately harming all parties. Equally concerning are the implications for environmental collaboration. Climate change has already increased risks to the Gulf's marine ecosystems, including rising sea levels, depleting fish populations, and hurricanes devastating coastal areas. Managing these challenges requires transparent partnerships between all three bordering nations. The renaming adds a layer of complexity to these responsibilities. If diplomatic tensions rise, collaboration could falter, prolonging damage to one of the world's most vital marine environments. Experts warn that divisions over territorial identity often cascade into inefficient policymaking, risking severe consequences for both human and ecological systems. This declaration raises a key question. Is renaming the Gulf primarily a symbolic move, or does it reflect deeper strategic intentions? Symbolically, the term Gulf of America hands the U.S. a perceived victory in the arena of territorial prestige, reminiscent of actions taken by empires or nations throughout history to assert dominance. On the other hand, renaming territories often bears unintended consequences, particularly when shared regions are involved. Strategically, this decision reinforces the rhetoric of American hegemony. It signals a commitment to U.S. interests, even when it provokes foreign allies. Whether or not this is intentional, the move risks alienating key partners critical for maintaining the Gulf's resources, ecosystem, and trade networks. President Trump's decision to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America is far more than a symbolic rebranding exercise. It represents broader themes of nationalism, politics, and geopolitics in the modern age. While the decision energizes supporters who see it as bolstering American identity, critics warn of potential diplomatic fallout with neighboring nations like Mexico and Cuba. The renaming also highlights significant risks to regional cooperation, with possible consequences for the region's economy, environment, and security. Ultimately, this decision reflects a growing focus on nationalistic narratives and their tension with an increasingly interconnected world. As political enthusiasts, we are left to ask, does this act strengthen the U.S.'s global position, or does it damage essential partnerships in pursuit of temporary symbolic victories? Share your thoughts, and let's discuss the broader implications of this fascinating and controversial moment in modern politics.